Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to take a whole stack of sources, the biographical, the critical, the financial, and really just pull out the essential knowledge for you.
Giving you that shortcut to understanding these truly consequential figures.
And today, we are unpacking a smile that basically defined a generation, but also a bank account that just completely shattered a ceiling.
Right.
We're talking about Julia Roberts. Because beneath that, approachable America's sweetheart image lies one of Hollywood's most astute financial pioneers.
That absolutely frames what we're doing today. Our mission for this deep dive is to analyze how Roberts went from being, a talented, acclaimed newcomer to Hollywood's first major female titan.
A titan.
Commanding salaries that were, before her, just reserved for male actors.
Yeah.
So we're looking at this really complex career evolution. We're examining her critical perception, which is, it's often hotly debated.
Okay.
And we're weaving in some surprising personal background details, things that are usually hidden beneath that massive public persona.
And our sources for this, they give us this incredible overview. It spans her whole life, basically from her birth in 1967 all the way up through her projects in 2025.
So this is not just a greatest hits montage.
No, not at all. This is a serious exploration of market leverage, real power.
Precisely. And we're going to start not with a box office figure, but with a piece of history that is so unexpected, it kind of recontextualizes her entire origin story.
Right. Because we all think of Roberts as this, glamorous, universally recognized Hollywood institution. But her earliest roots, they're deeply tied to the social justice movement in the American South.
Which brings us to Section 1, the unexpected roots and early ascent. We're talking 1967 to 1989.
Back to the very beginning.
Julia Fiona Roberts was born on October 28, 1967 in Atlanta, Georgia. And her parents, Betty Luberdamus and Walter Grady Roberts, they were deeply ingrained in the local performing arts scene.
They're actors themselves, right?
Actors and playwrights, yeah. They even co-founded the Atlanta Actors and Writers Workshop. Now, from all our sources, they were struggling financially, which is, it's pretty common for people in regional theater.
Sure.
But Walter Roberts had established something that was, for the time and place, it was profoundly radical. He ran the only racially integrated theater troupe in the entire region.
Okay, wait, hold on. The only one. In Atlanta in the late 60s?
The only one.
That's not just a theater company. That's a statement. That means he was taking a huge personal and definitely financial risk to challenge the segregation of the time.
He absolutely was. And that commitment to integration is where the story gets...
Well, it gets truly incredible.
Yeah.
Because the Roberts family, despite their artistic success, they couldn't pay the hospital bill when Julia was born.
They were just cash poor.
Completely.
So who steps in?
I feel like this is the big reveal.
Coretta Scott King.
Wow.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s widow. She stepped in and personally paid the hospital bill for Julia's birth.
Why? What was the connection?
She did it in gratitude. It was because Walter Roberts ran this integrated acting school, and the King children, including Yolanda, actually attended his school.
That is the ultimate aha moment. It just provides this instant, profound depth to her story.
It really does.
Because when you look at Roberts' later career, her choice to champion the role of Erin Brockovich, this working-class environmental justice advocate, it's impossible not to see a line connecting her back to this environment, this social consciousness.
It immediately grounds her narrative. It moves her so far away from that cliche of, a star discovered in a Hollywood diner. She comes from this unique, creative, and socially committed family.
She was raised Catholic, which is an interesting detail, though we have to remember her later conversion to Hinduism.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get into that spiritual evolution later on.
And that creative environment, it really established the foundation for what would become this, massive showbiz dynasty.
It's a whole family affair.
Her older brother, Eric Roberts, he's a veteran actor. They were estranged for years, but the sources say they reconciled around 2004.
Right. And her sister.
Her older sister, Lisa Roberts Gillen, is also an actress and later became a producer with Julia. And then, of course, her niece, Emma Roberts, is a successful star in her own right.
So it really is the family business through and through.
Though we do have to acknowledge the tragic side of it. Her younger half-sister, Nancy Moats, struggled with addiction and sadly passed away in 2014. And that private struggle, it just stands in such sharp contrast to the universally bright public image Julia always maintained.
What's so fascinating to me, though, is that even being surrounded by all these actors, her own goals were completely different at first.
Oh, completely. She wasn't an immediate theater kid.
So what did she want to be?
As a child, Roberts actually wanted to be a veterinarian. She was focused on animals, science. She even played the clarinet in her school band.
It feeds into this narrative that she wasn't, hungry for the spotlight. She almost just stumbled into it.
And that natural lack of desperation for fame is maybe what made her so compelling when she finally did make the move.
After high school, to New York.
Exactly. She left Smyrna, Georgia, moved north, signed with the Click modeling agency while she was taking acting classes, just doing that quintessential New York hustle.
And that hustle led to some very early but very dramatic screen appearances.
Her first television appearance, this was in 1987, was particularly dark. She played a juvenile rape victim in the series Crime Story.
Heavy stuff for a debut.
Very. That was followed by her big screen debut in a dramedy called Satisfaction in '88, which was about an all-female rock band.
But the real professional spark, the thing that got people talking,
Yeah.
that arrived pretty quickly with Mystic Pizza.
Mystic Pizza in 1988 was absolutely pivotal. She played Daisy Araujo, a Portuguese-American teenage waitress. The film wasn't a blockbuster, not by any means, but it was a critical launching pad.
And critics immediately saw that raw charisma. Roger Ebert's praise, in particular, was so prophetic.
He was completely effusive. He called her a major beauty with a fierce energy, and he predicted that Mystic Pizza might one day be known mostly for showcasing future stars, and he specifically highlighted Roberts.
So it wasn't just praise for her looks. He saw the energy.
Exactly. It was recognition of this undeniable, visceral energy on screen that you just couldn't ignore.
And that undeniable energy it accelerated everything.
Yeah.
The very next year, 1989, she lands Deal Magnolias, an emotional powerhouse, huge ensemble film.
Mm-hmm.
But the story behind that casting, it suggests it was not a guaranteed role for her.
Not at all. The filmmakers were initially looking at more established names, people like Laura Dern and Winona Ryder for the role of Shelby, the young bride with diabetes.
So how did she get in the door?
It was the casting director who just really pushed for Roberts, who was still filming Mystic Pizza at the time.
And the narrative we have says that when she finally got in the room, she just completely won them over.
The screenwriter, Robert Harling, he recalled the moment. He said when she walked in, that smile lit everything up, and I said, "That's my sister." She just embodied the Southern charm and the vulnerability that character needed.
But the set itself,
Yeah.
it sounds like it was not a comfortable experience for her as a newcomer. The director, Herbert Ross, was apparently pretty demanding.
The sources say it was a trial by fire. Sally Field, one of the veterans on set, she later admitted that Ross went after Julia with a vengeance.
Oh, why? Just because she was new?
Because she was relatively inexperienced, and it was her first truly high-profile picture. She had to develop a thick skin and a lot of professional resilience really fast amidst some serious on-set pressure.
That's such a crucible moment.
Yeah.
You're facing intense scrutiny from a tough director, but you still had to deliver a performance that connects with people.
And she did. The outcome was phenomenal. The film was a smash hit, and it earned her her first major accolades.
The Oscar nomination.
An Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, and her first Golden Globe Award win. She finished the 1980s not as a model or a waitress, but as an Oscar-nominated actress.
That trajectory is just incredibly fast.
Yeah.
She goes from this integrated theater family in Georgia to a major Hollywood award contender in, 2 years?
It's a phenomenal foundation, but the role that defined her legacy and, more importantly, her financial power, that was just around the corner.
Which transitions us right into the most financially transformative decade of her career.
Let's do it. Section 2. The queen of the rom-com and financial powerhouse from 1990 to 1999.
And you have to start with the cultural bomb that was Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman in 1990. Roberts opposite Richard Gere. This film just cemented her as a leading lady. It's this modernized Cinderella tale.
So iconic today, but it's critical to remember its messy origins.
Oh, very messy.
You mentioned the list of actresses who turned it down. Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan, Molly Ringwald. I mean, why would they all say no to what became such a career-defining role?
Because the initial script was dark, really dark. It was called 3000, which was a reference to the price of her services as a prostitute.
Not exactly a feel-good title.
No, it was a gritty, cautionary tale about drug use, prostitution, and it had a tragic ending. It was not the sparkling romance we all know.
So she signed on when it was still that dark version.
She did. She signed on when it was with the original studio, Vestron Pictures, which then went bankrupt.
So Disney's Touchstone Pictures swoops in, and they What, they just fundamentally sanitized it?
Exactly. They turned it into the Pygmalion fantasy. All those A-list actresses likely turned down the original, much darker concept. Roberts just ended up being the right person at the right time to embody the assertive yet charming version of Vivian Ward that Hollywood wanted.
She redefined what that role could be. She brought this vulnerability, but also a refusal to be a victim.
She did, and what she was paid for that versus what the film returned is the first clear, glaring piece of evidence for the financial leverage she would eventually command.
Okay, so what was the number?
She was paid $300,000 for the part.
And the film made?
The final global box office was $463.4 million.
Wow. I mean, that is a mind-boggling return on investment for the studio.
It's astronomical. And beyond that, it holds the record for the highest number of ticket sales in the U.S. ever for a romantic comedy. That film proved definitively that Julia Roberts was a commercial engine.
And that engine immediately earned her the accolades to match. Her second Oscar nomination, this time for Best Actress, and a second Golden Globe win.
Culturally, she was a phenomenon. That red dress she wore to the opera, it's instantly recognizable. It's routinely cited as one of the most famous gowns in cinema history.
She went from acclaimed newcomer to global movie star, and the term America's sweetheart just started to stick almost immediately.
Right after that massive success, Roberts tried to navigate the early 90s by exploring different genres. She showed she didn't want to get locked in that rom-com box.
So she tested the waters and more. Psychological and supernatural stuff.
Exactly. In 1990, she had Flatliners, a supernatural thriller. It had a very polarized critical reception at the time, but it's since found a life as a cult film.
And then 1991 was just a relentless year for her. 3 major releases.
And those 3 were huge hits, commercially speaking. First, the domestic thriller Sleeping with the Enemy. It capitalized on her vulnerability and star power, and it grossed $175 million globally.
And then Hook.
Second, she took on a supporting role in Steven Spielberg's Hook as Tinkerbell. That pulled in over $300 million worldwide.
And the third.
The romance drama Dying Young, which added another $82.3 million to the tally.
So even if the critics were entirely kind to her 1991 movies, the box office numbers just proved that people were buying tickets because her name was on the marquee.
She was star-proof. Didn't matter what the review said. Her star power was functioning as a guarantee.
But then, she made a really surprising move.
She took a 2-year hiatus from the screen. She only made a brief cameo in Robert Altman's brilliant industry satire The Player in 1992.
A 2-year break at the absolute peak of her early fame is.
It's radical. Why did the media and the public react so strongly to that?
Because it wasn't just a break, it was a defiant act. She was reclaiming her private life, which had become incredibly sensationalized, especially around her engagement and breakup with Kiefer Sutherland.
The media went into a frenzy.
Oh, completely. People magazine ran that infamous 1993 cover story asking, what happened to Julia Roberts?
That cover just speaks volumes about the possessiveness the public felt over their sweetheart.
It absolutely does. The sources suggest this period allowed her to reset, recalibrate her priorities, and fundamentally prove that she controlled her own narrative, not the media machine.
So her comeback was very carefully planned.
Meticulously. She returned in 1993 opposite Denzel Washington in the John Grisham adaptation, The Pelican Brief.
And pairing her with Washington, a serious actor also known for commercial success, that signaled she was ready for high-stakes drama and, still big box office. And it worked. The film was a huge success, grossing $195.2 million worldwide. Her star power wasn't just undiminished. It was reinforced by her ability to walk away and come back on her own terms.
The mid-90s had a few mixed returns. I Love Trouble, Pretty Porter. But the late 90s is when she truly cemented her title as the undisputed queen of the romantic comedy.
This was the crucial second act of her commercial dominance. My Best Friend's Wedding in 1997 didn't just revive the genre, it redefined it.
Critics hailed it as one of the best romantic comedies ever made, partly because it was so sophisticated, so subversive.
And the subversion being that her character, Julianne, she doesn't actually end up with the guy she's chasing.
She loses gracefully. It broke the formula.
Exactly. And it earned $299.3 million globally. That film showed that Roberts could anchor a film that challenged romantic conventions while still delivering massive commercial returns.
She balanced that success by crossing back into thrillers that same year with Mel Gibson in Conspiracy Theory,
which grossed a respectable $137 million. The key takeaway is she maintained her critical respect even in genre films. One critic specifically praised her acting in that film, noting that even when the plot got complex, Roberts still managed to do some fine acting.
And the decade finished with these back-to-back mega hits that just solidified her global monarchy.
First, Notting Hill in 1999 opposite Hugh Grant. That film grossed an astounding $363 million worldwide.
Wow.
It displaced Four Weddings and a Funeral as the biggest British hit in cinema history at the time. CNN definitively crowned her the queen of the romantic comedy whose reign continues.
She had literally become the gold standard for the genre.
And then the reunion with Richard Gere in Runaway Bride later that year, despite being critically mixed, it was just pure financial power. Pulled in $309.4 million globally. Her filmography up to 2000 is just this machine gun of consistent, massive commercial hits.
And just to show her versatility, she squeezed in 2 memorable TV guest spots.
The Friends episode in 1996, which was huge, and a guest role on Law & Order in 1999. That Law & Order role even earned her a Primetime Emmy nomination. She was maximizing her exposure across all platforms.
Which brings us to the moment. She didn't just maximize her marketability. She fundamentally changed the structural economics of the entire Hollywood studio system.
Exactly. Section 3. Peak financial power and the shift to critical drama, starting in 2000.
This is the pivotal moment. This is what lets us call her a financial pioneer.
All that consistent, massive commercial success of the 90s, it culminated in unparalleled negotiating power.
And she decided to use that power not for another rom-com, but for a biographical drama.
A huge strategic move. She became the first actress in history to be paid $20 million for a film when she took on the titular role in Erin Brockovich in 2000.
Let's unpack that number, because just saying $20 million doesn't really convey the magnitude of that industry shift.
It doesn't.
That salary figure was previously a benchmark reserved exclusively for the biggest male superstars, the Tom Cruises, the Tom Hankses. The thinking was always that men guarantee foreign box office returns and male audiences, and women can't.
Exactly. The assumption, which was rooted in a very sexist financial model, was that films led by women were niche. They were targeted only at female audiences, which limited their earning potential, especially overseas.
So her agent and her team, they used those $400 million hits from the 90s to argue that her name was the equivalent of a Cruise or a Hanks, regardless of the film's genre.
They did. And so when she signed that $20 million contract for Erin Brockovich, she didn't just get a raise, she forced the studios to accept a new reality. A female star could and should command the same market value as a male star.
It was a monumental shift. It just shattered the financial ceiling.
And critically, Erin Brockovich proved her worth artistically. Her portrayal of the real-life environmental activist was a triumph.
It won her everything.
The Academy Award for Best Actress, a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award. She delivered world-class, award-winning work at a record-breaking salary.
Her industry power wasn't just recognized internally either. It was formally stamped by the trade publications.
Right. In 2000, she became the first actress ever to be included on the Hollywood Reporter's prestigious list of the 50 most influential women in show business. She ranked third, right up there with studio heads and executives.
And by this point, the collective gross of her films was already over $3.9 billion worldwide.
She was Hollywood royalty, but with the added distinction of being the first woman to hold that kind of financial leverage.
And she didn't just hit the $20 million mark once. She kept pushing.
That's right. She later got an even higher salary, a reported $25 million for her role in Mona Lisa's Smile in 2003. She was on the Hollywood Reporter's list of the 10 highest-paid actresses every single year from 2002 to 2005.
So for that entire window, she was the undisputed commercial queen. And $20 million became the new aspiration for every female star that followed.
After achieving that financial dominance, she began a decade of exploration, balancing high-profile ensembles, more character-driven films, almost like taking a victory lap.
You see her consciously using her star power to elevate projects or just enjoy working with her peers. Like The Mexican in 2001 with Brad Pitt.
That's a great example. It was marketed as this huge blockbuster star pairing, but ironically, Roberts and Pitt shared very little screen time together. The script was originally conceived as a smaller indie film.
But their salaries guaranteed it a mainstream release.
Exactly. And that same year, she jumped into the ensemble heist film Ocean's 11.
Which was a massive success. 5th highest grossing film of 2001, pulling in $450 million worldwide.
And the sequel, Ocean's 12 in 2004, contained that wonderfully meta sequence that could only exist because of her fame.
The one where her character, Tess Ocean,
Yep.
literally impersonates the real-life Julia Roberts.
It's a moment of just unparalleled self-awareness. The writers were essentially saying her celebrity persona is so recognizable and so powerful it can function as a plot device.
That's the difference between being a star and being a phenomenon.
It really is.
Yeah.
And during this time, we also see her embracing voice work. She lent her voice to animation in The Ant Bully and the beloved children's classic Charlotte's Web, both in 2006.
And she continued to show her clout in more serious dramatic spaces with Charlie Wilson's War in 2007, earning her a 6th Golden Globe nomination.
Acting alongside heavyweights.
But the ultimate sign of pure star power? The contract that proves you are selling presence rather than performance? That has to be the cameo paycheck.
The Valentine's Day contract from 2010 is legendary in Hollywood finance circles.
What was it?
She received $3 million for her role, a role that totaled only 6 minutes of screen time.
So if you do the math, that's roughly $500,000 per minute of screen time.
It's astonishing. That contract essentially says having Julia Roberts' face on the poster, even for a few minutes, is worth this enormous sum. Because her marketability guarantees a certain level of ticket sales, it just illustrates the incredible value of her presence alone.
And that same year, she starred in Eat, Pray, Love, which was a commercial success. It had the highest box office debut for her in a top-billed role since America's Sweethearts back in 2001.
But not all of her explorations were met with adoration. The sources suggest a major turning point came with her attempt to pivot toward more serious dramatic roles, particularly her foray onto the stage.
Her Broadway debut.
In 2006, in a play called 3 Days of Rain, it was a fascinating case study in celebrity versus craft. Commercially, it was a huge success, grossed nearly $1 million in ticket sales in its first week. People came just to see her.
But critically, the response was brutal.
It was savage. Ben Brantley of the New York Times found her performance fraught with self-consciousness. He said she was only glancingly acquainted with the character she was playing.
So the general consensus was that her enormous persona just overwhelmed the intimacy and technical demands of the stage.
That's a great question for analysis. Was it a technical failure, or was her celebrity simply too large for the stage?
It raises that crucial question about the star versus actress debate we should get into. On screen, the camera focuses on her charisma, on the smile. But on stage, the audience is looking for technical transformation, and the celebrity became a distraction.
For a star so used to universal adoration, that must have been a tough, humbling experience.
But rather than retreat, she seemed to learn from it and just double down on high-stakes, critically challenging drama back on the screen.
Absolutely. The true pivot to complex character work came with August. Osage County in 2013, co-starring Meryl Streep, the ultimate dramatic powerhouse.
And her performance as Barbara Weston was fierce and brittle. It earned her tons of nominations.
Including her 4th Academy Award nomination, this time for Best Supporting Actress. It was a clear demonstration that she was capable of delivering the dramatic depth and internal complexity that her Broadway critics had questioned.
So let's move to Section 4, Artistry, Public Image, and Industry Advocacy. Because this section really gets at the core paradox of her career. How did she maintain that America's Sweetheart label while also becoming the industry's most fearsome financial negotiator?
The label America's Sweetheart stuck for decades. Vogue linked it directly to her ability to portray these relatable girl-next-door characters, often vulnerable working-class women who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. She embodied this blend of approachability and classic Hollywood glamour.
But there has been this consistent, ongoing critical debate about whether she is a truly great actress or merely an incomparable movie star.
And this is where we have to delve into the nuance of the critique. It's a very real distinction in cinephile circles. The critic David Edelstein noted that while she's universally acknowledged as a movie star, meaning someone whose name sells tickets, critics endlessly debate the extent of her technical acting abilities.
The argument being that she often just plays Julia Roberts on screen, that she brings her powerful, magnetic persona to every role rather than transforming herself into a character.
That's the core critique, yes. Critics have observed that she rarely strays far from that persona of a simple girl of limited means and unlimited heart. One even suggested she has never really been required to act because her charm is so overwhelming it just dictates the entire emotional tone of the film.
I wonder if that critique is fair, though, or if it's a reaction to the sheer magnetism of her celebrity. Are they judging her against the wrong standards? The roles she chose, especially those 90s rom-coms, they didn't require transformative physical acting. They required charisma.
And that's the defense. Director Mike Nichols offered a strong rebuttal to that criticism. He argued that her striking beauty sometimes overshadowed her acting intelligence. He suggested audiences were so captivated by the star quality that they missed the subtle intelligence in her performance choices.
And Roberts herself has always been very pragmatic, almost dismissive about the mystical side of acting.
Famously so. She stated plainly that she doesn't use acting techniques and finds actors talking about acting boring. For her, it seems to be this intuitive, character-driven process, relying on her inherent understanding of human connection rather than, methodical preparation.
And that grounded, no-nonsense attitude is precisely what made her so relatable as America's sweetheart.
Exactly. But regardless of the debate on her artistry, her influence on Hollywood's bottom line is indisputable. Her status as a financial pioneer is the single most significant element of her legacy.
It really can't be overstated. She's recognized as a pioneer in pushing for gender pay equity. By commanding that $20 million salary for Erin Brockovich, she reset the standard.
Which leads us directly back to that persistent rumor that she was difficult to work with early in her career. The sources offer a fascinating clarification that recontextualizes her professional strategy.
Okay, what did she say?
Roberts addressed this media speculation head-on in a recent interview. She clarified that early in her career, she consciously avoided appearing overly friendly on film sets.
And why was that?
It wasn't because she was moody. It was a deliberate professional mechanism. It was designed to create boundaries and avoid being taken advantage of, especially in a male-dominated industry where young female stars often struggle to maintain control.
That reframes the entire narrative. What the media interpreted as edginess or difficulty was actually a calculated, protective career management strategy.
Aimed at maintaining professionalism, focus, and crucially, leverage during tough negotiations. It shows incredible foresight. She was protecting her professional value in an arena where women were structurally undervalued.
And that financial leverage allowed her to change the industry. In 2002, she became the first woman ever to be ranked the most bankable star in Hollywood based on an industry poll tying with male actors.
Her agent in the 90s explicitly credited Roberts with helping convince studios that women could lead a film and guarantee an opening weekend just as successfully as men. By the turn of the millennium, women's films were legitimized in the blockbuster space because she had proven the return on investment.
And looking at her more recent work, she made a very conscious, strategic choice to move away from the genre that built her fortune.
Since Eat, Pray, Love in 2010, Roberts has largely moved away from front-and-center romantic comedies. She's gravitated toward more dramatic, character-driven projects, often in ensemble or supporting roles.
She attributes this shift to personal growth and a desire to balance work with family life. She said she's extremely selective, often waiting to see what opportunities arise rather than actively pursuing them.
And she played a huge role in legitimizing prestige television for A-list movie stars, a move that was really rare a decade ago.
It was a seismic shift. In 2014, she starred in the HBO film The Normal Heart as Dr. Emma Bruckner and earned an Emmy nomination. Vanity Fair noted she hummed with a sort of righteous Erin Brockovichian anger in the role,
suggesting she found this new dramatic niche playing complex, fiercely intelligent, brittle women.
Her first regular television role followed in the streaming series Homecoming in 2018, which was a huge critical triumph.
That move solidified the idea that the best, most complex roles weren't limited to the big screen anymore. It paved the way for countless movie stars to follow her lead onto streaming platforms.
And her recent film resurgence has included major commercial and critical hits as well.
Wonder, from 2017, where she played the mother of a young boy with a rare genetic disorder, was one of her most widely seen films, grossing over $300 million worldwide.
She also tackled high-profile historical roles,
portraying Martha Mitchell in the political thriller series Gaslit in 2022, and starring in the 2023 apocalyptic thriller Leave the World Behind, which was notably produced by Barack and Michelle Obama's company, Higher Ground Productions.
Okay, so we've seen the calculated professional strategy and the financial legacy. Now, let's shift gears and explore the private foundation that supports these highly selective career choices.
Section 5. Personal life, beliefs, and business ventures.
The sources reveal this fascinating blend of traditional celebrity life and deep introspective privacy. We can start with some truly surprising ancestry revelations that only came to light recently.
This came out during that 2023 episode of Finding Your Roots.
Right.
Through DNA and genealogical research, Roberts discovered that her biological paternal great-great-grandfather's surname was actually Mischel, not Roberts.
So the famous name she carried throughout her career might have originated from a maternal line or some other historical circumstance, not the paternal one she assumed.
It's a huge identity shift at this point in her life. And coupled with that, she had a deeply personal confrontation with a painful part of American history.
The fact that her ancestors owned slaves.
Correct. She learned that during the show.
How did she respond to that difficult discovery?
Her quoted response was exceptionally thoughtful and mature. She said, "You can't turn your back on history, even when you become a part of it in a way that doesn't align with your personal compass."
It speaks to her conscious grappling with the complexities of her Southern heritage, and it connects right back to the social conscience of her parents' integrated theater troupe.
And as a fun note, she's also a distant cousin of actor Edward Norton.
Hollywood lineage finds a way to link everyone, eventually.
It seems so. Her personal life, particularly her early dating history, was high profile, a staple of the tabloid press in the late 80s and early 90s.
She was romantically involved with Jason Patric, Liam Neeson, Dylan McDermott, Matthew Perry. But the relationship that really grabbed headlines was her engagement to Kiefer Sutherland.
They were one of Hollywood's most talked about couples. They were engaged, but they mutually broke up shortly before their scheduled wedding in June 1991. The press, of course, exaggerated the timeline, claiming she left him days before, which just fueled her desire for privacy.
Her first marriage was also a media sensation.
She married country singer Lyle Lovett in 1993, but the marriage was short-lived. They divorced 2 years later in 95.
And she met her current husband, Daniel Moder, on a film set.
On the set of The Mexican in 2000. She was dating Benjamin Bratt at the time, and Moder was married. After Moder finalized his divorce, he and Roberts married in a famously quiet, relaxed ceremony at her ranch in Taos, New Mexico on July 4, 2002.
Their commitment to a private, non-Hollywood life seems to be a key element of their long marriage.
Absolutely. They have 3 children, twins born in 2004 and another son in 2007. And this family commitment connects directly to her later-in-life religious beliefs.
Tell us about her conversion to Hinduism.
In 2010, Roberts revealed she converted to Hinduism, stating it was for spiritual satisfaction. She's a devotee of the guru Neem Karoli Baba, or Maharaji. She said a picture of him drew her to the religion.
And this commitment is evident in her family life.
Very much so. Her children were given Hindu names back in 2009, Lakshmi for her daughter Hazel, Ganesh for her son Phineas, and Krishna Balram for her son Henry.
That's a profound commitment. It suggests her current career selectivity isn't just about finding good roles, but about ensuring her work aligns with her spiritual and family priorities.
It gives her career choices a ballast that many other celebrities lack. She's not chasing fame or money, she's chasing fulfillment.
And switching gears to her business side, she's not just an actress, she's an active executive producer through her own company.
She runs Red Om Films, and here's that fantastic self-referential detail. Red Om is actually Moder, her husband's last name, spelled backwards.
Which tells you immediately that the business is deeply integrated with her family life and partnership.
Exactly. She founded it with her sister, Lisa Roberts Gillen, and through Red Om, she's executive produced many projects she starred in, like Homecoming and Eat, Pray, Love.
And also the American Girl franchise.
Crucially, yes. They executive produced the first 4 films of the American Girl franchise between 2004 and 2008, which shows her interest in commercially successful projects focused on young female audiences.
She's also leveraged her incredible global image into long-term endorsements that provide incredible financial stability, freeing her from the need to chase film paychecks.
Her most significant long-term deal is as the global ambassador for Lancôme, a partnership she started in 2009. She even signed a massive $50 million extension in 2010.
That long-term, high-value endorsement strategy became the standard for how female stars hedge against the instability of film revenue, allowing them to remain highly selective.
She also works with Chopard, having been named their global brand ambassador in 2023.
And beyond business, she's used her global reach for high-profile philanthropy.
She's contributed significantly to UNICEF for decades. Her 6-day visit to Haiti in 1995 was a huge, high-profile event. UNICEF officials expected it to trigger a massive outburst of donations.
She's also been a spokeswoman for Earth Biofuels.
Yes, in 2006. And in 2014, she was the voice of Mother Nature for the Conservation International Campaign on Climate Change, using her iconic voice for global environmental advocacy.
Finally, we have to mention a famous personal quirk that was so well known, it actually made it into her professional work.
The barefoot habit. Roberts has a noted preference for going barefoot at public events, film festivals, and famously at her wedding to Lyle Lovett.
It's part of that grounded, anti-glamour sensibility that makes her America's sweetheart.
And this habit was actually written into the script for her role as Tinker Bell in Steven Spielberg's Hook.
It's the perfect blend of the approachable persona meeting the blockbuster reality. And a quick summary of her accolades just reminds us of her sheer influence and durability.
She is tremendously decorated. An Academy Award, a BAFTA, 3 Golden Globes for Steel Magnolias, Pretty Woman, and Erin Brockovich.
And the People magazine record.
Perhaps the ultimate measure of her consistent, deep-seated public popularity, being named People magazine's World's Most Beautiful Woman a record 5 times. And just recently, in 2025, she was honored as a Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters by the French Minister of Culture.
A significant international recognition for her contribution to cinematic arts.
Absolutely.
So we've taken the full journey. From her surprising roots, financed by Coretta Scott King, to the cultural explosion of Pretty Woman, through her financial ceiling-shattering $20 million payday, and her conscious pivot away from massive rom-coms into complex drama and prestige TV.
The synthesis is clear. Julia Roberts mastered the duality of fame like few others. She cultivated and maintained an image, the relatable, non-threatening America's sweetheart, that gave her undeniable commercial power.
And then she strategically leveraged that power.
Negotiating salaries parallel to her male counterparts, thus fundamentally shifting the economics of female stardom in Hollywood. She demonstrated, without question, that a woman's name alone could guarantee a blockbuster opening and was worthy of a blockbuster paycheck.
It's an incredible legacy of power used intelligently and strategically to control not just her career, but the whole conversation around compensation for women in film.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Okay.
Roberts achieved her financial freedom by mastering the commercial system, particularly the blockbuster rom-com genre. Now she chooses projects based on complexity, interest, and the convenience of maintaining a separation between her work and her private life. She intentionally stepped away from relying on those defining, bankable star blockbusters.
This raises a fascinating question about the next generation. Given that financial freedom, what legacy does her intentional selectivity leave for younger actresses? Stars like Zendaya or Margot Robbie still have to fight tooth and nail for those massive, commercially successful blockbusters that Roberts legitimized, just to prove their equivalent bankability.
So has Roberts' eventual move away from the commercial spotlight, post-2010, inadvertently made it harder for the next generation of women to achieve that same structural financial parity, since they can no longer simply point to her example of consecutive commercial hits?
It forces us to ask whether bankability is a permanent status or something that needs to be constantly re-earned by every generation of female stars.
Something to think about the next time you see her, or don't see her, in a major film.
Join us next time for another deep dive.